Hi, fifth grade. I hope you're doing well. We're going to write some music about hobbies today. And it will be a lot like the candy compositions we did. So the first thing we will do is write a list of hobbies. Hobbies you like, your friends, or your family. So take a moment, pause this video, and make a list of hobbies. Okay, now that you have your list of hobbies, I want to remind you and let you know that you can pause this video anytime to do any of the steps that we're going to do today to write our composition. So the next step after we have a list of hobbies is pick one. I picked gardening. And I wrote 2 sentences about gardening. This is a little different than what we did in class, but I think it's a pretty easy task to do. Pretty flowers growing tall. And my second sentence is digging in the soil. So take a minute, pause the video if you need to, and write your 2 sentences. Take time to think of 2 sentences about your hobby. Now that you have your 2 sentences, take your first sentence, tap your lap, and say your sentence. Pretty flowers growing tall. Take time and do that for your sentence. Now I'm going to tap again and notice what syllables I say for my sentence. What syllables I say when I tap my lap. Pretty flowers growing tall. Pretty flowers growing tall. So I would underline the syllables that are on the beat, that are on my lap when I tap my lap. Pretty flowers growing tall. Take a second and do that for your sentence. And now do the same for your second sentence. Here's my second sentence. Digging in the soil. Digging in the soil. Digging in the soil. When I tap my lap. Digging in the soil. Digging in the soil. Say your sentence, your second sentence, as many times as you need. Tap your lap and underline the syllables. Now that you have your 2 sentences, we're going to experiment with the different order that we can put our sentences in. So we could start with pretty flowers growing tall, digging in the soil. Or maybe we want to repeat that twice. So let's just, for my sentences, I would go, pretty flowers growing tall, digging in the soil. Or maybe I want to switch it. Digging in the soil, pretty flowers growing tall. So I need 4, I'm going to have 4 lines. I'm going to repeat my sentences. Maybe I want to say this twice. So I'm going to call my pretty flowers sentence, that's my A sentence, sentence A. And digging in the soil is B. So this should look familiar, our different forms that we can have in our composition. A, B, B. So I would say the A sentence twice and then the B sentence twice. So, pretty flowers growing tall. Pretty flowers growing tall. Digging in the soil. Digging in the soil. Maybe I want to try A, B, A, B. So, there's A and B. Pretty flowers growing tall. Digging in the soil. Pretty flowers growing tall, digging in the soil. And experiment with your order with all these forms. A, B, A, B, B, A, B. So take some time and pause. After experimenting, I decided with A, B, A. Pretty flowers growing tall, pretty flowers growing tall, digging in the soil, pretty flowers growing tall. So now that I've decided on this, I'm going to add an instrument. I encourage you, even though you may be home, I'm sure you have some things. You might have an instrument. You may have things that you can make into an instrument. So I have some instruments. I have a pair of claves. And here is my composition. I've memorized it, A, B, A, so pretty flowers growing tall, pretty flowers growing tall, digging in the soil, pretty flowers growing tall. I won't say it. See if you can hear the words. Or I could try this instrument, a weirdo. Or some things in my house. I have a container and a pencil. I have a spoon. Sometimes you can keep the same container or object and just use something different to tap it, and it makes a different sound. Anything you want, look for things. And you could even decide to clap and tap your lap or snap. Or stamp. Anything. Any body percussion, any objects you want to make into an instrument, any instruments that you have. If you play band or orchestra instruments, you could pick a note and just play it on those words that you made up. So, and take time to work out what instruments or sounds you like to have on in your composition. Pause this, and there's one more step that you can add to make this even more interesting. So press pause, work on your composition, and when you've decided what instrument sound you like for your composition, come back. Okay, a final step that's very important. It seems small, but it's important and makes music very interesting. Dynamics. Piano means soft, forte means loud. And there's also crescendo. You may remember in class we've done this. It gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And decrescendo, softer and softer and softer and softer. Remember, crescendo, crescendo, crescendo means getting louder. Decrescendo, 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 getting softer. And I decided to add that. You may have noticed some little pencil marks I wrote here. These are my dynamics. It says piano, and then crescendo, and I'm going to get louder, and then crescendo, keep getting louder, and then forte, and then fortissimo. I'm sorry, piano. I changed my mind. I was going to end fortissimo very loud. I decided to quickly end softly. So, pretty flowers growing tall, pretty flowers growing tall, digging in the soil. pretty flowers growing tall. And if I put it on my instrument, okay. So thank you for listening and taking time to compose with me. I hope you enjoy your experience composing, and I hope you have a great week.